Hey everybody, it's Simon from High Plane Games with a review of V-Rally 4. This is a throwback to the 90s in a proper arcade racing fashion, and you'll see the PlayStation 4 version on your screens that I bought in the winter sale on your screens now, but it's also available on Xbox One, PC, and I believe it's coming to Nintendo Switch if it's not already out on Switch already. So yeah, this is, for better and for worse, a proper 90s throwback. I loved V-Rally, particularly V-Rally 97 and V-Rally 3, less keen on V-Rally 1. So it was really nice to see like a proper childhood series come back. And I was like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do with it. They're going to make it as arcade as possible and as numb as possible is probably the best way that I could describe this game. There's a lot of good in here, actually, and I don't want to like piss all over its parade too much, but I'll get to the bad stuff later. Firstly, this game covers 5 different disciplines. So apart from the normal rally that you've also got Buggy and V-Rally Cross, which are circuit racing events, just with different types of cars. The V-Rally Cross cars handle a little bit more floatily than the buggies, to be honest. The buggies seem to grip into the dirt a bit more. But essentially, they are just circuit racing going round. Alongside Rally, you've then also got Extreme Carna, which I initially read as Extreme Gymkhana and was expecting to do stunts everywhere. But actually what it is really tight circuits placed in really weird locations, like in a shipping district in South Africa, or running around an airport and things like that. And whilst there might be some Gymkhana-esque aspects to it, like doing a donut round like a pole or something, or round a plane, it's actually about trying to get round a course as quick as possible without knocking over cones by drifting out wide and making mistakes, which add on time penalties for you. Very good fun, highly arcade driven, and actually some of the best moments of V-Rally 4 in the game. The last one is Hillclimb, and that is very similar to Rally, but essentially you're just going up a hill. And these stages are often some of the longest that are in the game, quite often going up to 8, 9, 10 minutes long, because you're going uphill. But it's also some of the most satisfying parts of the game as well. The vast majority of V-Rally takes place on dirt, gravel, and loose material. And what that does is it affects the handling in such a way that your car almost always feels like it's floating and never actually sat in the tarmac, in the dirt or gravel itself, or ice, whatever it is that you're on. And what this does is it makes the handling feel so exceptionally floaty that it feels numb and unresponsive, and so it feels like you're gliding over the top. And it's not so much that you're driving a car, but more like you're hovercrafting is probably the best way to describe it. The exception to that is usually Hillclimb, and it's because Hillclimb primarily, for about 90% of that discipline, takes place on tarmac, and tarmac is the only surface that has any grip on it whatsoever, so that you feel like you're actually really in control and can be relatively nimble with the cars themselves. That then means that actually when you're doing well or not doing well, it feels more satisfying or more your fault. Whereas particularly in V-Rally Cross and buggy racing, I found the controls are always so floaty because you're always on mud, gravel, slush, that kind of stuff. It just feels like you're just floating from one vague half spin to another vague half spin. So, with the different disciplines that take place in a variety of world locations aside, let's get into some of the more nitty-gritty bits. And actually, just before I do, a big thumbs up. I really like the location layouts and the different ways how all of the different parts of the world really do feel unique. V-Rally 4 hits that on the head really well, I must say. The game itself has several different modes that you can play with, but the main one that you'll spend your most time on will be V-Rally mode. Shock horror. This is where it's essentially a career mode, and what you'll be doing is choosing events from week to week to enter in. You might have to pay an entrance fee to get in, but that will usually carry a bigger prize pot depending on where you place in those events. You are then using the money that you get from these events that you take part in across all 5 disciplines to then either buy new cars to be able to enter more of those 5 disciplines, because you'll only be able to choose one from the beginning to start with, or you'll be buying it to then place in more members into your rally team. Now you'll have mechanics that will be able to repair your cars faster, which is handy for when you're doing multiple stage events, because it means that you'll be able to repair more of your car if you smash it up more. Very handy. You'll also have researchers as well, which will be able to research upgrades to your cars as you play with them more, essentially. So if you do lots of the rallycross events, it will slightly boost potentially the amount of upgrades that you'll get to that quicker over a period of time, because the researchers and mechanics have spent slightly more time with that car. And in general, almost all of the cars have about 10 to 12 different upgradable areas that will have 1 or 2 upgradable parts, just to boost up essentially those stats. And those stats end up basically becoming like a number out of a couple of hundreds, so that you can kind of see almost like top trumps, which is the most powerful car, and then choose the appropriate one for your events as you go. So that kind of runs on a week-to-week basis. At the end of the week, you have to still have enough money to pay the wages of your crew. If you've not done that, then you'll go bankrupt, and essentially it's like, ooh, game over. But it's very, very difficult to do that, because you'll always get money for finishing events. And the way how the difficulty level works for V-Rally 4 is really weird. And it basically looks at your last few events and then decides whether or not it's going to chuck really hard, fast cars at you, or really slow, easy ones. So if you have a run of not winning events, it will basically make the AI so thick and the cars so slow that you can't help but win. And then if you win a couple of events in a row, it will stick cars into your race or into your class of whatever you're doing that are way faster than yours, so you can no longer win. So you're constantly having this like balance of back and forth of, oh, I'm doing so well, oh, I'm doing so well, last. And there's like no balance in between, and it's one of the weird curiosities of V-Rally 4, of which there are several, that just made me giggle. The other thing that is really weird in terms of curiosity, I was saying earlier on that the handling is really, really floaty. That also applies to how your physics work with the environment around you. So say that you're driving and you might smash into like a wall of tyres. Sometimes those tyres will stay where they are and you'll just bounce off them. Sometimes you'll just grind to an immediate halt. Sometimes those tyres will explode and disperse all over the track. And then what will happen, particularly this is the problem with buggy V-Rallycross and Extreme Kana races, which are more usually circuit based, you'll basically then come across the thing again the next lap round, and say if you've knocked over some tyres and they're across the road, if you hit them, it's utterly hit and miss whether or not it actually affects your car or not. So sometimes you'll drive over them and it'll just not even register anything at all, and then the next lap round you'll do exactly the same thing, and all of a sudden your car will just somersault, and I'm like, pardon? So it just makes it like it's clear that there's either some kind of weird surface issue, because the cars just float and they don't seem to like really understand how like circuit deformation happens, and I think that must affect then what happens with bits of the circuit that deforms and into the road as it goes. So yeah, bit of a weird one that. You'll also notice, particularly with buggy and V-Rally cross races, when you're racing against AI, sometimes they don't even take a joker lap and it doesn't care. So just be careful of that. Even when the joker laps sometimes are actually faster to do. So yeah, just one to keep an eye out on. In terms of online experience though, V-Rally is quite interesting in that regard. So you can go into lobbies, not that I've ever been able to join any, to have races online against other people. I can't say I can experience that, because even though I've had the game for approaching 2 months, I've still yet to actually find a race to join. But I am able to do events with other people asynchronously. So every 12 hours or 24 hours or so, a new set of about 7 or 8 events come up for you to then do time trials on. And that's really good from a rally perspective, and Hillclimb particularly, because then you can put in your car and face off against the actual world out there and not have to deal with AI that's deciding what it wants to do depending on what you've just done, if that makes sense. So I actually found that quite rewarding. It also shows me just how terrible I am at this game, because I'm never doing well on those. But I do find them quite fun to go up against. So yeah, V-Rally 4 is a really weird experience. I'm delighted it's here. I'm really glad that someone has gone, do you know what, let's just go full bang on arcade, because in a world where we've got our dirt rallies and things like that that really cater to the sim end, it's nice to be able to plug in a game that is fun and rewarding, and there's something really to be said about that for V-Rally 4. I've moaned about it for quite a while, but I do find the game quite fun and enjoyable in its own little way. It just needs to tidy up a couple of areas on being consistent with the way how it goes around its handling and how you react to the world around you. And also it needs to work out what it needs to do with its AI, so that actually it doesn't like go from extreme easiness to extreme hardness just based on your last couple of results. If it can do that and broaden out its horizons a little bit and be perhaps a little bit more prettier. Sometimes it suffers with screen whitening, where too much lighting effects are going on, so everything just kind of goes into white massive polygon chunks. There's potential here for a decent V-Rally 5. Whether or not it will happen or not is an entirely different matter, but all in all, an interesting choice. It's kind of, I think it reminds me of early Milestone games, and that's probably going to put a lot of people off, but it's not terrible. It's just, if it's going to go arcade, it needs to embrace it fully, I think, and go nuts for it, and it'll be a much better game for it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that was informative. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll maybe see you out there on track. Bye for now. This channel is just one of my many projects that cover games, music and film. If you enjoy any of these and would consider supporting me to develop further in the future, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Satorimon. Thank you for your time and for watching the video.